Hello everyone. In this video, I shall be explaining the poem The Trees by Adrienne Rich. But before we move to the explanation of the poem, it's really important to know a little bit about the poetess to understand the poem better. Adrienne Rich was an American poet, essayist, and a feminist. She criticized rigid forms of feminist identities. Now, this background is going to help you understand the poem better in a different perspective. And she was called one of the most widely read and influential poets of the second half of the 20th century, and she was credited for highlighting the oppression of women in poetry. So please keep in mind when you analyze the poem The Trees. There are two parallel themes in this poem which you will have to pay attention to. The first one is man versus nature, which, when you read the poem, literally what you read and the literal understanding of the poem is highlighting the theme man versus nature. And the second theme is women's emancipation. That is when you see the metaphors in the poem. We will go into the details of that. So, man versus nature. In this, the first theme, that is the direct theme of the poem, is the conflict between man and nature. So, what does this theme say? That the trees are being cut and plants are being brought inside the house. When it is a sapling, a lot of deforestation is also happening. The trees are being cut. But as it grows, it gets suffocated with the limited space available. And the trees planted indoors start moving toward a forest to get freedom. So they are moving towards their natural habitat. So man versus nature is one direct theme that the poem deals with. Now, how is this poem dealing with women's emancipation as the second theme? Now, here the trees are a metaphor for people, specifically women, women who are wanting to free themselves from domestic shackles. Since long, women have been confined to the limits of home and household chores. So the poetess, using trees as a metaphor for women, she wants to bring to light women's emancipation movement that is taking place, where women are breaking those shackles symbolized by glass being broken and moving out. So this glass and women moving out of the house, this further you will understand when we do the discussion of the poem stanza wise. But these two themes, man versus nature and women's emancipation, are the two parallel themes that are running in the poem. The trees inside are moving out into the forest. What are the trees inside? The trees inside the houses of human beings. Human beings have now planted trees inside their house for decoration purposes, or we can also say it is just a futile attempt to be close to nature, very much hypocritical of the humans to do so. Because on one hand, they are cutting down trees, that you will see in the next line, that the forest that was empty all these days. Why has the forest become empty? It has become empty because of deforestation. Human beings are clearing away forests, they are cutting trees, and they are growing trees inside their houses. So this is quite a hypocritical behavior. Now, in the absence of trees in the forest, there are three things which cannot happen. The first is that no bird can sit on the trees. There are no trees, so the birds have lost their shelter. No insect hide. The insects have also lost their shelter, their hiding place. And no sun bury its feet in shadow. So the sun is not able to bury its feet in shadow. Now, what do you mean by sun's feet? As it is very clearly visible in the picture, that sun rays, it's a metaphor. Sun rays. Feet here stands for sun rays. So sun rays have been assumed to be feet here. So now they cannot bury in the shadow of the trees because there are no trees, so there is no shade. The forest that was empty all these nights, will be full of trees by morning. Now, the forest which is empty all these nights because of deforestation, there are no trees in the forest. So the trees which are now inside the houses, they are starting to move out. And the forest which was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. Now here morning doesn't literally mean morning. Morning means in a while, in due course of time, the forest is going to be full again. The forest will be full of trees because the trees are now freeing themselves. They are moving out of the houses and coming out in the open. Looking at the poem metaphorically, where women have been assumed to be trees, that is, trees are a metaphor for women. So here, the trees inside are moving out into the forest, means that women are moving out of their homes into the open world. The forest that was empty means there were no women moving out of the house. They were inside their houses imprisoned. So in some time, this women's empowerment movement, which has just begun, will have taken place, and the world will be full of working women. The forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. So women will be moving out of the house and the world will be full of working women. Women who have moved out of the boundaries of their home and are free now. All night, the roots work to disengage themselves from the cracks. Disengage means separate. So the roots are working hard to separate themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor. So this is the literal meaning. As you can see the picture, so the roots are trying to separate themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor. The leaves are straining towards the glass. So the leaves are working hard, they are moving, they are straining toward the glass. Small twigs. What are twigs? Twigs are thin woody shoots growing from a branch or stem of a plant that you can see in the picture. Small woody shoots. They are twigs. So they are also making an effort to move out of the house. So they are also stiff with exertion, tiredness. Long cramped boughs shuffling under the roof. What are boughs? Boughs are branches. So the branches are also shuffling under the roof in an attempt to move out. Like newly discharged patients, half dazed, confused, like a newly discharged patient who is confused but is ready to move out to the clinic doors. So here the branches have been compared to newly discharged patients. Metaphorically speaking, where women have been assumed to be trees. So all night the roots work to disengage themselves from the crack. That shows the efforts that women are putting to disengage. Where are they trying to separate from? They are trying to free themselves from the domestic foundation. So they are working very hard. So here, if you see the leaves straining towards the glass, the twigs are stiff with exertion, cramped boughs are shuffling. So all these actions, they lead to tiredness, right? So the women are tired, just like newly discharged patients who have less energy. So they are half dazed, that is, they are confused. So the women are healed but confused. That is why the adjective half dazed has been used for them, and they are now ready to move out. They are moving out of their homes into the open world. I sit inside, doors open to the veranda, writing long letters. So here the poetess says that she's sitting inside her room and the doors open to the veranda where the trees are now trying to move out from. So she's writing long letters. Here long letters could be just a diary entry. She's making a diary entry, or she's writing poetry. in which I scarcely mention the departure of the forest from the house. Why does the poet not mention the departure of the forest, that is, the movement of the trees, the departure of the trees from the house? Here we will see the poem metaphorically that women's emancipation at that time was a taboo topic. It was not a welcome topic, not up for discussion. So the poet doesn't want to be outcast by the society. Right, and that is why she doesn't mention the departure of the forest from the house, because it was not a welcome topic. Women's empowerment was not a welcome topic at that time. The night is still fresh. The whole moon shines in a sky still open. So, still the moon is visible, means the glass is not yet broken. The process has started, the glass has not yet been broken. The night is fresh, the whole moon is shining in a sky still open, and that's what she can see from inside her room. The smell of leaves and lichen. So, what's a lichen? If you see in the picture here, it's a very common sight, especially humid areas. So, lichen is the crusty patches. You can just see this green, bushy growth on tree trunks and bare ground. It is formed by fungus and algae. So, you don't need to go into the details. I just wanted to show you the picture of what is lichen. So the smell of leaves and lichen is still reaching like a voice into the rooms. So when trees are moving, they're moving out. So there is lot of movement, and this movement leads to the smell of leaves and lichen reaching the poet into her room. Now it is still like a voice. So here again we will have to see this word from a metaphorical point of view. Voice is the talks and discussions about the freedom of women. Now, it is a major movement that is taking place. Obviously, there are going to be a lot of talks and a lot of discussions around this movement, and all these talks and discussions are reaching the poet while she is sitting inside her room writing long letters. My head is full of whispers. What are these whispers? Like the voices which we discussed in the previous stanza. These whispers are talks and discussions about freedom of women, which tomorrow will be silent. Tomorrow means in due course of time. And why these whispers will be silent? Because the revolution, the change would have taken place in due course of time, and then there would be no more talks and discussions about it because it would be accepted in the society. This word listen is really important here, because through this word listen, the poet urges the reader to pay attention to the major change that is taking place. So the poet here says, listen, the glass is breaking. The domestic shackles are breaking. The trees are stumbling forward. The trees are moving forward literally. They have broken the glass now and they are moving forward into the open. And metaphorically, the domestic shackles have been broken by women, and the trees, which are a metaphor for women here, they are moving forward into the open, into the society, into the night. Winds rush to meet them. They are being welcomed and they can sense the fresh wind of freedom. The moon is broken like a mirror. Now, if you remember, in the previous stanzas, we did that the moon was still full shining because the glass was still intact. Now here, if you can see in the picture, the moon is broken like a mirror. Its pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak. Now where has this tallest oak come from, and why is the moon broken like a mirror? So this tallest oak, which was imprisoned, which was inside, has now moved out and is covering the moon, which was visible full from inside when the glass ceiling was not broken. So the oak is now covering the moon, and As you can see in the picture, that instead of being visible complete, the moon is visible partially broken like a mirror, and the pieces of this mirror are now flashing in the crown of the tallest oak because it is on the height, it's being covered partially by the oak. And here the moon has been compared to a broken mirror whose pieces are now flashing in the crown of the tallest oak. Hoping that you liked the video. Meet you with my next video. Till then, keep watching, keep learning. Thank you.